Dr. Zixenorp adjusted his ocular implants, his tentacles twitching with a mixture of anticipation and trepidation. "Well, well, well," he chuckled to his colleague, Dr. QWERTY, looks like we've got ourselves another, ahem, volunteer from that backwater mudball they call Earth. His laughter echoed through the stark, sterile laboratory, a sound that would have sent shivers down a human spine. If humans had anything resembling a proper exoskeleton, that is. Dr. QWERTY's crystalline form shimmered with amusement. "Oh, joy," she replied, her voice dripping with more sarcasm than a Zorgon slug's trail. "Another chance to study these so-called death-worlders. I'm practically vibrating with excitement." She paused, realizing she actually was vibrating, a side effect of her crystalline biology. "Oh, wait. That's just me being me. Never mind." The two alien scientists turned their attention to the unconscious human strapped to the examination table. He was a specimen of average build for his species, which is to say, pathetically fragile by galactic standards. His name tag read Dave, because of course it did. Humans and their obsession with monosyllabic names never ceased to amuse the alien scientific community. "So?" Dr. Zixenorp mused, absently twirling a scalpel between his tentacles. "What shall we subject this one to? We've already tested their laughable resistance to acid, their pitiful tolerance for radiation, and their embarrassing inability to survive in a vacuum for more than a few measly minutes." He sighed dramatically. "I'm starting to think these death-worlders are more like mild inconvenience worlders, if you ask me." Dr. QWERTY's crystalline structure vibrated with laughter. "Oh, Zix, you old softy, always looking on the bright side of things." She paused for dramatic effect, her next words emerging with a theatrical whisper. "What if we try instant cryo-freezing?" Dr. Zixenorp's eye stalks shot up so fast they nearly detached from his gelatinous head. "Instant cryo-freezing? On a carbon-based life form? Are you out of your crystalline mind?" He waved his tentacles in exasperation, nearly knocking over a tray of delicate instruments. "That's like dropping a Flurbian iceworm into a volcano," Dr. QWERTY helpfully supplied. "Exactly," Dr. Zixenorp exclaimed. "It's barbaric. It's unethical. It's—" His voice trailed off as a mischievous glint appeared in his compound eyes. "It's absolutely brilliant. Let's do it." As the two alien scientists cackled maniacally. "Well," Dr. Zixenorp cackled. Dr. QWERTY's laughter sounded more like wind chimes in a hurricane. They failed to notice that their human volunteer was starting to stir. Dave, for his part, was having a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. It had started normally enough. Wake up, brush teeth, contemplate the existential dread of existence, have coffee, the usual. Then, somewhere between feed the cat and go to soul-crushing office job, he'd been abducted by aliens. Because of course he had. It was just that kind of day. As he slowly regained consciousness, Dave became aware of several things in rapid succession. 1. He was strapped to a very uncomfortable table. 2. There were two beings nearby who definitely didn't look like they were from Earth. 3. Said beings were discussing freezing him as casually as one might discuss the weather. Excuse me?" Dave croaked, his voice hoarse from disuse, and possibly from screaming during the abduction, but he'd deny that if asked. "I don't mean to interrupt what I'm sure is a fascinating discussion about my imminent icy doom, but I have a few questions, if you don't mind." The aliens froze, ironically, given their plans for Dave, and slowly turned to face him. Dr. Zixenorp's tentacles writhed in surprise, while Dr. QWERTY's crystalline form flickered through a rainbow of colors, before settling on a sheepish pink. "Well, well, well," Dr. Zixnorp drawled, recovering quickly. "Look who decided to join the party. I don't suppose you'd believe us if we said this was all just a dream, would you?" Dave raised an eyebrow, a feat that impressed the aliens more than they'd care to admit. "Let's see," he mused. "I'm strapped to a table, being loomed over by a talking octopus and a disco ball's angry cousin. Either this is the worst hangover of my life, or I'm about to become an unwilling participant in some intergalactic science fair project." Dr. QWERTYOP's form shimmered with indignation. "I'll have you know, I am a highly respected xenobiologist, not what did you call it? A disco ball?" She turned to Dr. Zixnorp. "What's a disco ball?" "I believe it's some sort of primitive Earth weapon," Dr. Zixnorp replied sagely. "Probably designed to confuse and disorient enemies with flashing lights." Dave couldn't help but laugh, a sound that startled the alien scientists. "Oh boy," he chuckled. "You guys really don't know much about humans, do you? A disco ball is for parties. You know, fun, dancing. Please tell me you have dancing in space." The aliens exchanged bewildered looks. "Dancing?" Dr. Zixnorp repeated, as if the word tasted funny in whatever passed for his mouth. "You mean that bizarre ritual where you flail your limbs about in patterns? We thought that was some sort of mating display or territorial marking behavior." "Well," Dave grinned, "you're not entirely wrong about the mating display part, depending on the club." Dr. QWERTYOP's form rippled with curiosity. "Fascinating. Perhaps we should reconsider our approach. This specimen seems far more lively than our previous subjects." "Previous subjects?" Dave's grin faded. "Wait, how many humans have you abducted?" Dr. Zixnorp waved a dismissive tentacle. "Oh, you know, a few here, a few there. Nothing to worry your primitive little brain about." He leaned in close, his breath smelling oddly of mint and motor oil. "Now, my fleshy friend, how would you like to participate in a groundbreaking scientific experiment?" Dave tugged at his restraints. "Do I have a choice?" Both aliens burst into laughter, a cacophony of gurgles and tinkling that set Dave's teeth on edge. "Oh, you humans and your obsession with choice," Dr. QWERTYOP chimed in, literally. "It's adorable, really. But no, you don't have a choice. We're going to freeze you faster than you can say hypothermia, and then we're going to see what happens." That's murder," Dave sputtered. "You can't just freeze people. It's not cricket." The aliens paused, confused once again. Dr. Zixnorp's tentacles twisted into what Dave assumed was the alien equivalent of a furrowed brow. "Cricket? Is that another Earth weapon? Some sort of cold-generating device?" Dave sighed. "No, it's never mind. Look, can't we talk about this? I'm sure there's a less lethal way to satisfy your scientific curiosity. How about a nice game of chess instead?" Dr. QWERTYOP's form flickered with excitement. "Oh, I've heard of chess. That's the one where you move little sculptures around a checkered field and then flip the table when you lose, right? That's not exactly... You know what? Close enough." Dave decided that correcting alien misconceptions about Earth games was probably not the best use of what might be his final moments. "The point is, freezing me is a terrible idea. You have no idea how my body will react." Dr. Zixnorp's eyes gleamed with scientific fervour. "Exactly. That's what makes it so exciting. Now hold still. This won't hurt a bit." He paused, then added, "Well, actually, it will probably hurt quite a lot. But only for a second. Then you'll be too frozen to feel anything." As the aliens bustled about, preparing their cryo-freezing apparatus, Dave closed his eyes and took a deep breath. This is it. he thought. This is how I die. Not peacefully in my sleep, not heroically saving someone from a burning building, but as a popsicle in some alien lab. Mom always said I'd amount to something special. The machine hummed to life, a sound that reminded Dave uncomfortably of his old refrigerator right before it had given up the ghost and spoiled an entire week's worth of groceries. He felt a blast of cold air and braced himself for the worst. And then, nothing happened. Dave cracked open one eye, then the other. He was still very much alive and decidedly unfrozen. The aliens, on the other hand, were staring at him with expressions that could only be described as dumbfounded, even on faces that weren't remotely human. "Impossible," Dr. Zixnorp muttered, his tentacles drooping in disbelief. The temperature dropped to absolute zero for a full nanosecond. He should be a human icicle by now. Dr. Quertiop's crystalline form had gone completely transparent, a sign of extreme shock in her species. Perhaps the machine malfunctioned, she suggested weakly. Dave, for his part, felt perfectly fine. Well, as fine as one could feel while strapped to a table in an alien laboratory. Was something supposed to happen? He asked, genuinely curious. The aliens ignored him, too busy running diagnostics on their equipment and arguing in hushed, urgent tones. Dave caught snippets of their conversation. Recalibrate the quantum flux. But the tachyon emissions were stable. Maybe their biology is more resilient than we thought. Finally, Dr. Zixnorp turned back to Dave, his eye stalks drooping with a mixture of frustration and awe. "It seems," he said slowly, as if each word pained him, "that we may have underestimated your species' resilience." Dave blinked. "So? I'm not going to be frozen?" Dr. Quertiop's form shimmered with what might have been embarrassment. "It appears not. In fact, it seems that your body simply ignored our attempt to freeze it." "Huh," Dave mused. "Neat. So, does this mean I can go home now?" The aliens exchanged glances again, a silent conversation passing between them. Finally, Dr. Zixnorp sighed, a sound like a deflating balloon. "I suppose we have no choice. We can't very well continue our experiments if our equipment doesn't work on you." As they began to undo Dave's restraints, he couldn't help but feel a little smug. "You know," he said conversationally, "this might be a good opportunity for you to learn more about humans in a less invasive way. Have you considered just talking to us?" Dr. Quertiop's form brightened, literally. "What a novel concept! Communication instead of experimentation. Why didn't we think of that?" "Probably because it's less fun than freezing people," Dr. Zixnorp grumbled, but there was a hint of intrigue in his voice. As Dave sat up, rubbing his wrists where the restraints had been, he had an idea. "Tell you what," he said, "why don't I stay for a bit, and we can have a cultural exchange? I'll tell you about Earth, and you can tell me about whatever planet you're from. No freezing, no probing. Just good old-fashioned conversation." The aliens looked at each other, then back at Dave. Slowly, almost comically, they nodded in unison. And so began the strangest diplomatic mission in Earth's history. Dave, the accidental ambassador, spent the next few hours regaling his alien captors-turned-hosts with tales of Earth. He explained the intricacies of reality TV. So they're not actually trying to survive. They're just pretending. Yep, welcome to Earth entertainment. The concept of pets. You mean you keep other species as companions, voluntarily? Well, with cats, it's more like they keep us. And the eternal debate of pineapple on pizza. It's a surprisingly divisive issue for something so trivial. In return, the aliens shared stories of their own worlds. Dr. Zixnorp came from a planet where personal space was a foreign concept, and tentacle wrestling was the national sport. Dr. QWERTY IOP's homeworld was a crystalline paradise, where communication happened through complex patterns of light and colour. As the hours passed, the initial awkwardness faded, replaced by genuine curiosity and, dare I say it, the beginnings of friendship. They laughed. Well, Dave laughed. Dr. Zixnorp made a sound like a garbage disposal with hiccups, and Dr. QWERTY IOP chimed melodiously at cultural misunderstandings and marvelled at the similarities they discovered despite their vast differences. You know, Dr. Zixnorp mused, absently juggling beakers with his tentacles, I'm starting to think we may have been going about this all wrong. Perhaps humans aren't as fragile as we thought, just differently resilient. Dr. QWERTY IOP nodded, her crystalline form glowing with a warm, pinkish hue. Indeed. Their adaptability is quite remarkable. To survive on a planet with such varied and extreme conditions, it's no wonder they can shrug off our puny attempts at freezing them. Dave grinned, feeling a surge of pride for his species. We're like cockroaches, he said, then quickly added upon seeing the aliens' confused expressions. I mean, we're tough and adaptable, hard to get rid of. Fascinating, Dr. QWERTY IOP chimed. These cockroaches must be formidable creatures indeed. Perhaps we should study them next. Dave quickly steered the conversation in a different direction, making a mental note to never introduce the aliens to Earth insects. The last thing the galaxy needed was an invasion of super-intelligent, scientifically curious cockroaches. As their impromptu cultural exchange wound down, Dave found himself facing an unexpected dilemma. Part of him was eager to return home to the familiar comforts of Earth and to reassure his friends and family that he hadn't, in fact, been abducted by aliens, even though he had. But another part of him was reluctant to leave. Despite the rocky start, he had grown fond of his alien companions, and the prospect of returning to his mundane life seemed somehow less appealing now. So, he said, trying to keep his tone casual, I don't suppose you guys make a habit of inviting humans to, visit? For non-experimental purposes, I mean. Dr. Zixnorp and Dr. QWERTY IOP exchanged glances, a mix of surprise and intrigue passing between them. Are you suggesting, Dr. Zixnorp said slowly, his tentacles curling thoughtfully, that you would willingly return to our lab, even after we tried to turn you into a human popsicle? Dave shrugged. Well, when you put it like that, it does sound a bit crazy, but let's be honest, this has been the most interesting day of my life. Back on Earth, the most exciting thing that happens to me is finding an extra fry at the bottom of the bag. Dr. QWERTY IOP's form shimmered with what Dave had come to recognize as her version of laughter. Oh, you humans and your fried potato sticks. Such simple pleasures. Dr. Zixnorp's eye stalks wobbled in what Dave assumed was the alien equivalent of a thoughtful head tilt. You know, he gurgled, this could be an unprecedented opportunity for long-term observation. Think about it, QWERTY. A willing human subject, offering to return for further study. Oh, yes, Dave deadpanned, because that doesn't sound ominous at all. I was thinking more along the lines of cultural exchange, not please dissect me at your leisure. Dr. QWERTY IOP chimed in, her crystalline form shimmering with excitement. Why not both? We could learn so much about human culture and biology. It's a win-win situation. Dave raised an eyebrow. I'm not sure you understand what win-win means in human terms. Let's establish some ground rules, shall we? Rule number 1. No freezing, boiling, irradiating, or otherwise attempting to kill me in the name of science. The aliens deflated slightly but nodded in agreement. Rule number 2, Dave continued, warming to his role as intergalactic diplomat. I get to ask as many questions about your worlds and cultures as you ask about mine. Fair's fair after all. Dr. Zixnorp's tentacles wiggled in what Dave hoped was enthusiasm rather than an attempt to strangle him. Agreed! Oh, this is so exciting. We'll be the first in our field to conduct a long-term, non-invasive study of a Death Worlder. I prefer the term Earthling, if you don't mind, Dave interjected. Or just Dave. Dave works too. Of course, Dr. QWERTY chimed soothingly. Now, Dave, how shall we arrange these visits? We can't exactly give you our contact details. Intergalactic roaming charges are astronomical. She paused, her crystalline form flickering with amusement. Pun intended. Dave groaned at the pun but couldn't help smiling. Who knew aliens had a sense of humour? Terrible as it was. Well, he mused, I suppose you could just beam me up. That's a thing you can do, right? Or was my abduction a one-time special offer? Dr. Zixnorp made a sound that Dave could only describe as a squelchy snort. Oh, please. Beam me up. What do you think this is, some low-budget Earth science fiction show? Our matter transference technology is far more sophisticated than that. Right. Silly me. Dave rolled his eyes. So, how does it work then? Do I need to stand in a specific spot? Wear a tinfoil hat? Sacrifice a goat under the full moon? The aliens stared at him blankly. The goat thing was a joke, Dave clarified quickly. Please don't actually make me sacrifice any farm animals. Peter would have a field day. Dr. QWERTY's form rippled with confusion. Peter? Is that your planet's governing body for interstellar relations? Dave couldn't help but laugh. Oh boy, that's a whole other can of worms we don't have time to open right now. Let's just say they're very concerned about the ethical treatment of animals, and leave it at that. Fascinating. Dr. Zixnorp mused, his tentacles curling thoughtfully. We must remember to avoid any animal-related experiments when you visit. Now, about the logistics of your future arrivals. The alien scientist proceeded to explain a complex system involving quantum entanglement, tachyon emissions, and something called hyperspatial folding that made Dave's head spin. He nodded along, pretending to understand, all the while thinking that he should have paid more attention in his high school physics class. And that's why we'll need a sample of your DNA, Dr. Zixnorp concluded, looking expectantly at Dave. Dave blinked, realizing he'd zoned out for most of the explanation. I'm sorry, what? My DNA? What happened to non-invasive study? Dr. QWERTY chimed in, her tone reassuring. Oh, don't worry. We only need a tiny sample. A strand of hair would suffice. It's merely to calibrate our matter transference device to your specific biological signature. We wouldn't want to accidentally transpose you with, say, a nearby squirrel. That can happen? Dave asked, suddenly feeling very concerned about the safety of this arrangement. Of course not, Dr. Zixnorp scoffed, then paused. Well, probably not. There was that one incident with the Zorgonian ambassador and the potted plant, but that was due to a faulty flux capacitor. We've since upgraded our systems. Dave made a mental note to always check if he still had opposable thumbs after each trip. Right, he said, slowly. Well, I suppose a strand of hair is fine. Just promise me you won't clone an army of Daves or anything like that. The aliens exchanged a quick glance that did nothing to reassure Dave. "Of course not," Dr. Qwerty chimed a bit too brightly. "That would be unethical, and definitely not something we've considered. At all. Ever." Dave decided that pursuing that line of questioning would probably only lead to more sleepless nights, so he changed the subject. "So, how often were you thinking for these visits?" Dr. Zixnorp's eye stalks perked up. "Oh, how about once a week? That should give us ample time to prepare new experiments. I mean, cultural exchange activities." "Once a month," Dave countered. "I do have a life on Earth, you know. Job, friends, a cat who already judges me for how much time I spend away from home." The aliens conferred briefly, in hushed tones, and a series of light pulses that Dave assumed was Dr. Qwertyop's native form of communication. "Very well," Dr. Zixnorp finally conceded. "Once a month it is. We'll transport you here on the first Saturday of each month, Earth time. And we promise to have you back in time for, what was it you called it? Soul-crushing Monday?" Dave chuckled. "That's perfect. Nothing like a trip to an alien lab to make the start of the work week seem less daunting." As they finalized the details of their arrangement, Dave couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and trepidation. He was about to become a regular visitor to an alien spaceship, a willing subject in their studies of humanity. It was thrilling, terrifying, and utterly absurd all at once. Dave exclaimed as a thought struck him. "What do I tell people on Earth? I can't exactly put monthly alien abduction on my calendar." Dr. Qwertyop's form shimmered with amusement. "Why not? From what you've told us about Earth entertainment, it doesn't seem that far-fetched." "True," Dave admitted, "but I'd rather not end up in a psych ward or on one of those Ancient Aliens TV shows. How about I just tell everyone I've joined a monthly bowling league?" Dr. Zixnorp's tentacles wiggled in confusion. "Bowling? Is that the Earth sport where you knock down phallic objects with a spherical projectile? How curious." Dave decided that explaining the intricacies of bowling to aliens was a task for another day. "Sure, let's go with that. Bowling it is." As the time came for Dave to return to Earth, he found himself oddly reluctant to leave. Despite the rocky start, he had grown fond of his alien companions, their curiosity, their strange sense of humor, even their initial misguided attempts to freeze him. It all added up to the most interesting day of his life. "Well," he said, standing awkwardly in what he assumed was their ship's teleportation chamber, "I guess this is goodbye for now. Thanks for not, dissecting me or anything." Dr. Zixnorp's tentacles twisted into what Dave hoped was a smile. "The pleasure was ours, Dave the human. You've opened our eyes to a whole new approach to xenobiology. Who knew talking could be just as informative as invasive experimentation?" "Literally everyone on Earth," Dave muttered under his breath. But he smiled nonetheless. Dr. Qwertyop's crystalline form glowed warmly. "We look forward to your next visit, Dave. Perhaps you could bring some of those potato sticks you mentioned. For cultural exchange purposes, of course." Dave laughed. "Sure thing. I'll bring a whole assortment of Earth snacks. Prepare your taste buds, or whatever it is you have." As the alien scientists activated their teleportation device, Dave felt a tingling sensation wash over him. The last thing he saw before the alien lab faded from view was Dr. Zixnorp waving a tentacle in farewell, and Dr. Qwerty flashing a rainbow of colours that Dave took to mean, "See you soon." In a blink, Dave found himself back in his apartment, standing in the exact spot he'd been when he was first abducted. He looked around, half expecting to see his home changed somehow, to find that years had passed while he was gone. But everything was exactly as he'd left it. His half-empty coffee mug still sat on the counter, the morning news still played softly on the TV, and his cat, Mr. Whiskers, still glared at him from the couch as if to say, "And where have you been?" Dave checked his watch. Barely an hour had passed since his abduction. He sat down heavily on the couch, absently petting Mr. Whiskers as he tried to process everything that had happened. "You'll never believe the day I've had," he told the cat, who responded with a disinterested meow. As the reality of his experience settled in, Dave couldn't help but laugh. He, Dave Johnson, average guy with a boring job and a cat who barely tolerated him, had just become Earth's first willing alien research subject and unofficial intergalactic diplomat. He glanced at his calendar, grinning as he penciled in bowling night on the first Saturday of next month. Life, he decided, was about to get a whole lot more interesting. Meanwhile, light years away, Dr. Zixnorp and Dr. QWERTY were excitedly preparing their report for the Galactic Scientific Council. "Can you believe it, QWERTY?" Dr. Zixnorp bubbled, his tentacles flying over the holographic keyboard. "We've made first peaceful contact with a Death Worlder. This will revolutionize our field." Dr. QWERTY chimed in agreement, her form glowing with academic fervor. "Indeed. Just think of all we'll learn. Their resilience, their adaptability, their strange obsession with fried potato sticks. The possibilities are endless." As they worked, a notification popped up on their screen. It was a message from the Galactic Scientific Council marked urgent. Dr. Zixnorp opened it, his eye stalks widening as he read its contents. "Oh my," he gasped. "QWERTY, you won't believe this. The Council has just received a transmission from Earth." Dr. QWERTY's form flickered with surprise. "But that's impossible. Their technology shouldn't be capable of interstellar communication yet." They huddled around the screen, reading the message with growing astonishment. It was a simple transmission, broadcasted on all frequencies, in every known galactic language. "To any alien civilizations out there, we know you're watching. We know you've been abducting our people. We have only one thing to say. Can we schedule regular pickups? Dave says you guys are actually pretty cool once you stop trying to freeze people. P.S. We're bringing snacks next time. Hope you like Doritos." Dr. Zixnorp and Dr. QWERTY looked at each other, a mix of shock and amusement passing between them. "Well," Dr. Zixnorp said finally, a gurgle of laughter escaping him, "I think we can safely say that our study of humanity has only just begun." Dr. QWERTY chimed in agreement, her crystalline form glowing with anticipation. "Indeed. Something tells me the galaxy is in for quite a surprise." As the two alien scientists settled in to draft their response to both Earth and the Galactic Scientific Council, they couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement. The universe, it seemed, was about to get a whole lot more interesting, and somewhere on Earth, blissfully unaware of the intergalactic stir he had caused, Dave was enjoying a well-deserved nap, dreaming of tentacled aliens, talking crystals, and an endless supply of cosmic French fries. The end? Or perhaps just the beginning?